Actually, another passion of yours has been teaching. It's something that you've done for a long time, and you've taught players from John Bland all the way through to beginners. How's teaching changed over the years, and do you think it's improved?
Well, I think obviously it has improved, but I think they work to certain principles now, and you watch the modern players, they all look the same, don't they? You don't get the different swings we used to get in our day, and I always felt you had to work with the action the guy had and try to improve that action, show him where he was going wrong, what made that happen, and get other things. But now the modern teacher, it is so regimented that they come out the same, and I think it probably is better in some ways, but I must prefer the old, it was much more feel, I think. A lot of the guys now can hit beautifully, Dale, but they can't play. And I think golf is a game you've got to play.
Your experiences over the years have been amazing, and you continue to tell me stories that I've never heard before, even though I've known you all my life. But the story you told me at the match play a couple of years ago about Frank Stranahan, I loved.
Yeah, well, I met Frank one year at Birkdale during an Open Championship, and he used to travel, old Frank, with all his weightlifting kit. He was a really strong guy. Look, he was a super player too, great amateur, and Donnie won the Open Championship. But anyway, he was telling me this story that, we always said he was a slow player. And he said, they ain't seen nothing yet. He said, you get me in a match play round, and the other boys got me down. He said, I'm just going to go slow and slow and slow. He said, and I'll bore that bastard to death. He said, and I'll win the game. Yeah, he was a champion spark plug, Frank. He was a great player. Really.
The other lovely story that you told was the one about the British amateur playing against the American amateur.
Yeah, and they'd had a few words on the way around, these two, and eventually the match was very tight, coming down the 17th hole, all squared, and the English player had hit it right down the middle, and the American hit a good drive, but in the left-hand rough. Anyway, the English player said, I'll just hit my second, I'll come and give you a hand, knocked his second on the green, and they walked up down there looking for the ball, for this American, and eventually he turned to his caddy, this English guy, and said, I'm sure his ball's 30 yards further up there. Caddy says, it is, sir, but they're looking for it here, so we'll look for it here.
Actually, I can hear that bird up there. Now, you're known as the bird man of Bedford View. You are an expert now on birds. What is that we
That's
hear?
A dove.
Oh, is that? Okay, is that a dove?
Yeah.
But only because you could see it.
Yeah, no, well, I couldn't actually, but I could hear it. I can remember that from a long time.
What do you think of that title?
Well, it's unwarranted.
Highlights, and I'm sure there have been many, but let's talk specifically the highlight of your playing career.
Well, I always go back to, I think the highlight as an amateur as well. I mean, obviously I won our Open Championship here in 1959, but that same year when I look back on with fondness is we won the Commonwealth matches at Royal Johannesburg and Kensington, and which was terrific. We had a wonderful side. There was Jimmy Boyd and Arthur Walker, Reg Taylor, Johnny LaRue and Bob Williams, and I played one in foursomes with Jimmy and then one in the singles. I never lost a game, which really I was really pleased about. Won all my games, and we won the Commonwealth Trophy, and that to me is the highlight of my amateur career. Probably winning in the French Open as a professional. That was a lot of fun, and Uncle George and Auntie Brenda were there when I gave them a heart attack when I shanked the ball off the 15th tee down below, and I probably played the shot of my life there to make a recovery and walk off with a par 3. But Uncle George and Auntie Brenda, because then I really got a bit shaky over the last 3-4 holes, but I managed to beat Ramonso by a couple of shots, and that probably was the highlight of my.
But that's quite incredible. I don't think if you asked any professional golfer what the highlight of his career would be, that he would say it was a tournament that he won as an amateur, an event that he played as an amateur. So it's quite incredible that you find that as the highlight of your career when you won 25 professional tournaments.
Look, I loved my amateur career, and obviously one of the reasons I turned professional, I mean, there was very little money when we turned pro. And, Bobby Locke was a genius. When he won the Open Championship, £300 first prize, or 600 Rand as would have been in those days, say. And he was, virtually unbeatable. So he didn't really, I always thought Harold and Gary, weren't really very clever turning pro when they did. Of course, they proved me wrong. But I was nearly 28 when I turned pro. So, and I did it because I wanted to keep playing golf at a high standard. I was taking on more and more territory. I used to be a furniture salesman. Johnny Blicknout gave me the job at lovely furniture, occasional furniture they made when I came down from Rhodesia way back in '52. So, but I'm glad I did. I mean, it's got me around the world, and I've really enjoyed it all.
Any particular regret?
If I could have the first, say, 3-4 months of my professional career over, I would have those over. And then, because I'll never forget, because Reg Taylor said to me, as an amateur, and I mean, I never really had lessons. I mean, people had helped me and what have you, but I would take advice, listen to it. If I could use it, I'd use it. And I'll never forget Reg Taylor when I said, well, I'm going to turn pro. We'd coming back from CMR, one of those Easter tournaments, and he said to me, whatever you do, don't listen to anybody. He said, you just go and play, you're going to be fine. And of course, got to America, all of a sudden they said I was going to hook the ball under pressure, Gary and Harold. And I'd never hooked the ball under pressure in my life. I might push it, but I never hooked it. And he got in, and that was Hogan, of course, with the grip, and I strained all the muscles in training my forearm. And then I got into a completely shut position at the top of a weak grip, and from the king of swing to the dick of swing. And, I never really ever got the swing back again. And then Henry Cotton tried to help as well, pulled all the muscles out of my shoulder, the great Henry Cotton. But if I could, I'd have those 3 months and just play, because I always found that, once I could play, fairly easy to hit the ball. And then, of course, it had me, and that's when I developed a short game. But as my pals say, it's a pity it starts off the tee.
Now, you were obviously already married when you turned professional, and I think you're coming up for close on 60 years of married life. How have you stayed married that long?
Well, I've got a very patient wife, number one, and she's a lovely girl, Jill. And of course, I think probably the reason we're still together is we've been married for 57 years, and I think I've been away for 30. But no, she's been fantastic, and I couldn't think of being married to anybody else. She really has been, the whole centre of our family. And when I was away, brought up the children, the eldest boy travelled a little bit when we first started playing, but Jill really has been the absolute core of our family.
In all the years that you've played and watched the game, who's the finest driver of a golf ball that you've ever seen?
Well, you see, I'm going back a bit. I'd love to have seen him go back. Dave Thomas, the old Welsh Ryder Cup and English Ryder Cup, or the European Ryder Cup player. Dave was a fantastic driver of the ball. And I think I'd rate him up there. I'd hate to think we hit it with the modern equipment.
Iron shots?
I think long irons, the guy I loved watching hit long irons was Julius Boris. With that lovely lazy swing, he had a big pair of hands and just seemed to drop the club, and he used to have that lovely old flight with a slight draw. So I'd put Julie probably as the one I liked hitting long irons.
Short irons?
Bobby Locke. I mean, he used to hit that wedge, Dale, and I still don't know how, and I mean, you've been there, we've been there for a million years. That draw of his into the green and check right. Yes. Now, how does that happen? I mean, it was absolute mystery, and the way Bobby had the overlap there, but when he finished, it was double-handed. I mean, he was so innovative. Definitely, I'd put Bobby short iron.
Chipping?
Chipping?
Seve?
Yeah, well, Seve, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'd go Chipping. He had great imagination, which you have to do. You could see so many different shots, it's a joke.
I'm going to ask for putting, but I already know the answer.
Yeah, Bobby Locke. Well, Bob Charles too. Bob Charles was terrific. And Gene Littler, not bad. And Ben Crenshaw, another one.
Trouble shots?
Well, there again, I think you've got to go Seve. I would say Seve, unbelievable. And, Tiger Woods, no question about him. Gary wasn't bad. And
Gary loved to be in trouble, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, but he liked to fight things. That was the whole thing. Gary, I don't think really liked it smooth. He did better when he was fighting something or felt that an injustice had been done him. Then he would, could really got him stirred up. No, I'd say yeah.
Let's just talk about Nicklaus and Tiger. Nicklaus, the greatest golfer that's ever lived. Probably some people now would argue that Tiger has been a better golfer, but he's not going to probably win the majors that Nicklaus has won. Just talk about the two of them.
Well, I think you've got to stay with, at the moment, Jack as the best player. I mean, he proved it. He's also won tournaments all around the world, as Tiger has done. And I think Tiger was sort of programmed to go past it all. And I don't think he's going to make Nicklaus's record either. But certainly they've been two outstanding players. But I mean, there's so many guys. Hogan could have, won the Grand Slam if he could have got back in time to play that PGA. But the two of them, Jack has just been a thorough gentleman. He's done everything correctly.
And Arnie Palmer?
Arnie, I loved watching play. I mean, he was just one of those magnetic guys, exciting and strong. And I saw that shot that he hit at Birkdale. You remember, it's now the 16th hole. It used to be the 15th hole in the final round of that Open that he won there way back, I think it's 61. And I had finished playing and I walked out to watch him in the middle of that bush on the right of that fairway, dead. I mean, I was reasonably strong in those days. I might have got it back on the fairway with the sand out of there. He took a 5-iron and just the bush just exploded. The ball finished 15 foot behind the hole and he nearly made 3. I mean, he was just unbelievable. But you are going to ask me about bunker shots, aren't you?
I wasn't going to, but I'm going to now.
Well, you know, they always say the argument, who was better, Gary or Tony Johnson?
Yes.
But who taught them all was Norman Veneda, the great Australian player. He had more shots than a can of worms out of the bunkers, and he was terrific. And I'll tell a little quickly a story about Harold and I were playing Norman Veneda and the Silver Fox, Arthur Lees, you remember?
Yes, yes.
Many years at Sunnydale, who nearly did Gary when Gary won his first event at Wentworth. You remember that Dunlop Masters? I mean, he won there many years ago. I think it was Gary's first win. Anyway, Harold says, I've made us each £100. I said, how have you done that? He said, no, we're going to play Arthur Lees and Norman Veneda for £100 tomorrow, 100 each, and we're giving them 2 upstart. I said, Harold, what do you mean 2 upstart? You're playing like a dog, I'm not much better. And no, he said, Norman can't get it in from a foot. Anyway, off we go. Needless to say, playing the 13th, par 5 with 2 down at the time. Norman hasn't got it in from a foot, but he's held it 4 times from 30 foot. And anyway, Arthur Lees in the left-hand bunker in 3, Norman's in the right-hand bunker in 2, and Harold and I both on the green in 2 at this par 5. You get up there, and Norman's ball is underneath the lip in the right-hand side of the bunker. And he's dead. Anyway, he shouts across to Arthur, don't worry, Arthur. He said, I'll make it a 4. And Harold said, don't think he's joking, but he went one-handed and flipped it out from underneath into the middle of the bunker, played and horseshoed it out. Harold and I think, truth God, Arthur Lees holds his bunker shot him. He got a half, and they did us, boy, 3 and 2. And Harold, write him a check, he said. So I wrote them a check, they took our money.
Yeah, you mentioned Tony Johnson. How good was Tony out the bunker?
No, wonderful. No, he was up there with Gary. I mean, Gary was freaky. I still think Gary would probably argue, but played in the World Cup in Buenos Aires in 1962. And one of the holes, in the right-hand bunker, and he must have been from 20 yards from the hole, and the hole was on a plateau, not much bigger than a dining room table. And he darn near hole it. He lobbed it out of this bunker up there and then just spun out and finished like this. And that probably is the best bunker shot I think I ever saw.
Now, why has Zimbabwe or Rhodesia produced so many great players?
Well, I think because they encouraged Junior. They didn't mind the kids or the young ones that's playing in their tournaments. They let us play early on in the medals and the bogeys. And they really, and beautiful courses, beautiful weather. You could play all year round. And they definitely encouraged them. And I think, you know, good weather, great courses, and people to look up to, and we were encouraged to play.
Hutchie, Simon Hopday.
Well, Simon, you know, you're getting back now to strikers. I mean, Simon is Simon. He's one of the great characters in the game, and also turned pro very, very late. And I can remember, I mean, he was a fantastic all-round sportsman, of course, Simon, and did everything well. And he always, of course, was the worst putter in the world, you know. I loved it. Every time we had him on television, he'd hold a putt. But the things he did walking through the pond at the old Kensington. And no, he was very, very special, but still one of the great strikers of the world. I think some of the stories about him are truly amazing. I wish we had time to tell a lot of them. We've got to write a book one day about him.
You've got a photographic memory, and you have a lovely poem about the game of golf. Let's hear it.
In my hand I have a ball, white and dimpled and rather small. Oh, how bland it does appear, this harmless-looking little sphere. By its size I could not guess the awesome strength it does possess, but since I fell beneath its spell, I've wandered through the fires of hell. My life has not been quite the same since I chose to play this stupid game. It rules my mind for hours on end. A fortune it has made me spend. It's made me curse and made me cry, and hate myself and want to die. It promises me a thing called par, if I hit it straight and far. To master such a tiny ball should not be very hard at all, but my desires the ball refuses and does exactly as it chooses. It hooks and slices, dribbles and dies, and disappears before my eyes. Often it'll have a whim to hit a tree or take a swim. With miles of grass on which to land, it finds a tiny patch of sand, then has me offering up my soul, if only it will find the hole. It's made me whimper like a pup and swear that I will give it up and take to drink to ease my sorrow. But the ball knows I'll be back tomorrow.
I used to watch Huey, you, Gary Player, everybody that I could steal something from with my eyes. That's how we learned. So you'd go to the practice range, I'd put you in my thoughts and I'd try and hit a draw and I'd visualize how Dale does it. And that's how I learned to play the game, was through visualization. I never knew anything about, the basic, the fundamentals I had, but all the little intricate details that they use today that you can speak of. I mean, in my opinion, it's all ridiculous, because I just think the simplicity of the game is what makes it so interesting.